right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minister. I am Zin Uru, and this week we're going to be talking about mental discipline. Discipline in one's mind, discipline in the way that we think. You know, believe it or not, we have a lot of control over the thoughts that we allow to take seed, to take root inside of our mind. And it's very important that we're aware of some techniques and those abilities to actually control the way that we think so that our outer environment can start having the effects and start seeing the things that we want to see in our inner and our outer environment. Those habits that we want to get into. So this week, as we talk about mental discipline, first of all, I want to thank y'all for being here across time and space. You could tune into anything else right now, but you're tuning in to Zin Uru, and I appreciate you. I just want to remind us all that there is no such thing as time and space. In spirit, there is no such thing as time and space. Time and space are just constructs of this earth dimension, this earth realm that we find ourselves in, that God has given us so we can understand creation, we can understand God, we can understand ourselves, we can understand consciousness in a better way by going through this experience of time and space. But in spirit, there is no time and space. Therefore, y'all are here with me right here and right now in this very room. And I appreciate you being here. And as a matter of fact, if you want to visualize yourselves being in this room right here, right now, I'm already visualizing you all here and right now. And I thank you so much for being here. Peace and so much love to you, my nobility. This week, we want to talk about mental discipline and some useful habits, some things that we can get into so that we can understand how to discipline our mind, how to discipline our thinking. So important. Because if we don't have a disciplined mind, the world will become this great distraction, and we find ourselves thinking about what we should be doing more than actually being out doing what we know we need to be doing. Think about that for a minute. Most of us, or a lot of times, we find ourselves thinking and worrying and being sad and depressed and angry and frustrated and about those things that we think we should be doing, as opposed to using that same energy, flipping that energy around into a charge, into a positive charge, into a charge that gives us this life energy that we go out and just start accomplishing those things. How often have we found ourselves going, man, it sure would be nice if I was doing this, if I was doing that, daydreaming and thinking about it, but never actually doing it. There's a disconnect there. And this is where the discipline comes in. Now, discipline, you know, I was thinking about this week. The sun is shining, it's nice outside. You know, I've been going out for extra walks, going out for hikes, going outside to do some Tai Chi, do some yoga, you know, and I always eat right, but, you know, thinking about the way that we eat, food. A lot of us think about the discipline is, you know, with exercise and the way we eat or getting and accomplishing something, you know, fulfilling a certain goal that we have, accomplishing a certain goal that we have. And yeah, discipline, that is discipline, no doubt. It takes a lot of discipline to get there. But remember that everything in this world, thoughts become things, as they say. They taught that on The Secret. Thoughts become things. And as thoughts become things, you know, it follows that our outer environment, the physical world, follows our inner environment, our mental world. And really, the mental follows the spiritual. The spirit brings the inspiration. The mental starts processing that information, starts thinking about that information, and then that information, we start using it into our outer world. I'll give you an example. Yoga. When I wanted to learn yoga back in 2012, I've been doing Tai Chi and stuff, and we've been traveling all over the world, and it's really not that easy to practice Tai Chi in a small hotel room. and weather permitting, environment permitting, I'd find myself out there in the drizzle doing Tai Chi out in the parking lot in some grimy city somewhere. And I loved it. It was great. I appreciated that time and that space to do that. I still do it. But I would notice that, in all the hotel rooms, there's always this space somewhere where I could probably lay out, this is before I ever practiced yoga, I could lay out a yoga mat and stretch out and do all the things I'd see them do on yoga. I was like, oh, I could do that in this space. And so I wanted to get myself into the discipline, into the habit of yoga. And so, at the time that I wanted to do this, I wasn't touring. I was like, I had a lot of bills that I had to pay. I didn't have any extra money to go to and become a student of yoga and go to all these yoga classes. Yoga classes can run upwards of $200-300 a month. And I wanted to get into a daily habit of it. And so, I kind of hit this dilemma. I was like, I went to a few classes. I had some friends show me some things, some basic yoga poses and things. And I was like, man, I'm kind of at a dilemma here. I need to get into this habit of yoga. I would like to learn how to do yoga. But I really, quote unquote, can't afford it right now. I don't like that as an affirmation. We can afford anything we put our mind to. But, I didn't have the funds to be spending on yoga at that moment, but I really wanted to learn it. I knew I was going to be going out on tour in a few months, and I wanted to have that habit, that discipline of yoga. Here's where the mental comes in. So I started thinking to myself, well, I ain't got the money for yoga. Am I just going to be another white dude out here in California doing yoga? Like, how cliche is that? I just, the mind started going through all these reasons, making all these excuses for why it'll probably be better if you did it. Maybe this isn't the right time. But I kept having this, the Spirit was urging me and pushing me like, Zin, you really need to do, you really need to learn how to do some yoga. And so, I went on YouTube and I found a yoga video, and I found a few of them. I started practicing these different yoga videos that I'd see on YouTube until I found one that I really liked. And I was like, this would be perfect. This is like a 45-minute flow. If I could learn this yoga flow, I could go anywhere in the world with this knowledge. I don't have to have an instructor there. I don't have to have anything but my yoga mat and me, and I can do this yoga. But it was a mental discipline I had to get myself into. I had to overcome, first of all, and this is just a basic, this isn't really difficult. People do this all the time. But this is the process that we go in when we want to have a discipline in the outer world. This is the process that our inner world, our mind, our mental world has to go through so we can accomplish those things. My first obstacles were mental. And then those same mental obstacles, I had to stretch out. I had to start, once I started learning yoga, I had physical obstacles. I couldn't hold some of the poses. I couldn't do some of the stretches, I was so that discipline had to come into it. And the mental was there the whole time. Zin, you could do it. Perform patience, Zin. I'd be telling myself, perform patience. You'll get this as time goes on. You'll get more balance. You'll master this. And so I knew this process already going into it, but it still took that mental, that spiritual inspiration into the mind to really get to where I could do this yoga flow anywhere at any time. And it took a couple months for me to go from the discipline into the habit. And now it's such a habit, my body doesn't even, my body has to have yoga in it at least 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And same with walking, walking is not a discipline as much as it is a habit now, but it did take some discipline to get myself out and get into the habit of walking. Same thing goes for eating right. For us to want to eat right, we have to have the mental well-being, the mental vision, the mental picture for ourselves, because remember, the physical, the world, the outside world follows the inner world, the outer follows the inner. And so even eating, our diet, we have to have a certain mindset that if we want to change certain diet habits, we got to know why we want to change those. We got to know we're worthy of having those diet changes. We got to understand what it is behind the dietary changes that we need. Longevity. We want to live a more prosperous life. We want to feel better as we get older. We want to take care of our future selves. We want to maybe fix something, some kind of physical ailment that we have. We want to lose some weight. Whatever it is, we want to get into that habit, and the discipline of eating right. But that all does start in the mind. And what happens is, for those who are weak-minded, for those whose mind isn't really disciplined, who aren't disciplined in the mental, and even, those of us who, when our minds are weak and our minds aren't in that right place, when we're forming a habit, what happens is we start using the things like guilt and fear and we're like, let's use emceeing as an example. Even more accurate, I like to talk about an album all the time. I'm an MC, I write albums. It took me a lot of mental work, a lot of spiritual and mental work to get to where I can make albums. I'm on album number 11 right now. I just finished album 10 and working on album 11 when I got the time. But I'm in a habit of writing an album, but to get to that habit, I had to perform a lot of discipline. I had to really get my mind right, really get my heart right, really get my soul right with God, myself, with my environment, to really put myself through that so I could write albums, so I could write songs and could write music. But what would happen is that in the beginning, when my mind wasn't in the right spot, when I didn't have the mental discipline as an MC, what happened early on was I would feel guilty. I'd be like, oh, I'm running out of time. I'm 33 years old. I got to get this album done. Oh, man, I'm falling behind. Oh, man, I got to work on this album. Oh, guilt, shame. Oh, all the weight of the world would be on me. And then I'd be like, no, fuck that. I'd push it off, and I'd go and I'd be like, I'm going to do this. And I'd write with the pen, and I'd write, and I'd go and record. And then I'd be like, yeah, I'm pushing myself. This is discipline. And it is. It's a form of discipline. Push myself. But then what would happen is, because I hadn't formed the right mental habits, I went back and oh man, I'd start feeling guilty. Oh, I went back into my old habits. Oh, I'd be distracted by this and that and feel I'm not worthy. Oh, I'm whack. Oh, I can't, all of these things that were lies, that were illusions. Really, those illusions were there sent to strengthen us. Those kind of illusions, those kind of doubts and fears, those are sent there to strengthen us by God. All is God. But the point being is that happens a lot of times in our lives. Exercise, I lived on this hill one time, I lived on this big hill. It was like one of the most popular biking trails in the world in Northern California. And this thing was for like advanced level bikers. Like you'd see these dudes who was like, just super bikers being up there on their bikes, and they'd just be pedaling, just go up these straight windy hills, and they zooming and zapping down, without running into the trees or cars. But I would see people who would be like not in shape. Let's put it mildly. They were not in shape. And they be out there pushing themselves up these hills. I'm like, so you punish your body by getting out of shape, and now you're punishing your body to get in shape. That's not discipline. That's insanity. And so I realized I'd be watching that like, what is the real meaning of discipline? Why do we so often push ourselves into something, then we fall back into the bad habits? We have to get to a place, and this is why mental discipline is so important. We have to get to a place where our discipline just becomes a habit. And think about those things in your life that are a habit, that are a healthy habit. Let's even put healthy there. A healthy habit in your life. How did you arrive at that spot? How did you arrive at those healthy habits that you have in your life? Because really, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's the same process. It's very simple. It's the same process. The same process for learning, for getting your exercise right. It's the same process as writing your album. It's the same process as eating right. It's the same process as accomplishing anything in life that you want to accomplish. Writing your book, doing these videos. It's a process that in our lives, that for us to be consistent with life, for us to make a habit and be consistent, We got to have some discipline in our lives, and that begins in the mind. Now, how do we begin that in the mind? There are so many different ways to master the mind. Meditation, affirmation, prayer, study, creative visualization, just to name a few. Those things help us get into, a mental state where we're able to visualize, think through things, get rid of any of the mental blocks that we might have, and then go forward and accomplish those things that we want to accomplish. It's very important that we know this and we remember this, because I know that a lot of you, like myself, have things in life that you want to accomplish, and maybe you're not able to accomplish those things right now. Well, I'm here to tell you, discipline the mind, get into the center, and make it easy on yourself. Quit judging yourself so harshly. It's not the standards you set for yourself. It's us being the judge that comes in and starts putting all this weight on top of us. Oh, you're not worthy. Oh, you're lazy. Oh, you're weak. Oh, you're overweight. Oh, you deserve this. This is layers to this. Layers. They call them prompters. That as soon as we start thinking about something in life, these other prompters, these bad habits, these old stories, these things that aren't true start coming at us and telling us that we can't do it. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can do it. I didn't start spitting until I was 33. I picked up the mic at 33 years old. And it was crazy. Here I'm a white dude, grown up from the suburbs, running on tour with the teacher KRS-One, running around with the dopest MCs, like these hot ciphers every night after the show. The hotel room would be this cipher going on. Dudes from every other city spitting their bars. And I was like, yo, man, I know I'm an MC, but how am I gonna get there? I'm getting a late start in life, And so I started thinking to myself, like, yo, man, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. Oh, no, I pushed myself. Yeah, I could be doing this. Let me write my first bars. Let me spit those bars. Oh, man, they're freestyling. How do I freestyle? Well, I got to go spend, time in the car by myself with beats on, freestyling. And as time went on, I got into that habit, into that discipline where now I could freestyle. Now I could do a show. I could rock a show. Now I could write an album. But it took that mental discipline of all those doubts, all of the hate, and all of those things. It took all of that. I had to break through all that. I had to push through all that. And it took mental discipline. Because if I didn't have the mental discipline and I started believing all these things that anybody was saying about me, or what I was saying about myself, or what society is saying, if I believed any of those things, I wouldn't even be here talking on camera right now. What is it that you really want to accomplish in your life that you're sitting back from and you ain't really doing nothing about it because your mind is thinking the wrong things, because your mind is creating the fear, because your mind is creating the doubt, because your mind is creating the depression, because your mind is creating all these excuses that are keeping you from being where you want to be. And really, us collectively goes the same thing. Our collective mind, why are we collectively thinking about all these doubts? Why we ain't have Hip Hop City right now, right here? I mean, it's here. But why do we don't have our own space on our own land called Hip-Hopia right now? It's because collectively our mind ain't in the right place. Well, how are we going to get our collective mind in the right place if we don't get our individual minds in the right place? And like I said earlier, that starts with spirit. That's another talk. I'm talking specifically about mental discipline right now. But that mental discipline needs to start with knowing that God is inspiring in you. God is what's pushing forward in you. That urge to accomplish, to write that album, to write that book, to eat right, to exercise more, to whatever it is, spend more time with your kids, to get that, start that business, whatever it is that God's inspiring and pushing up through you. And then for the mind has to start going to work. Now, I call it the map, really the maps. This is something that I've been working on for years. How do we get into that space where we're able to take that inspiration from God, get our mind right, and then put it out into the outer world? Well, that starts with the maps, M-A-P-S, maps. Meditation, affirmation, prayer, and study. These four are so important to maintain our mental balance, to maintain our center, to maintain our focus, to accomplish those things. Meditation, well, they say, meditation is when we just be still and listen. I've got future message from the ministers where we're going to be specifically talking about different forms of meditation. But all of us, if we just say, I want to meditate, you already have a way of meditating. You already have some idea. You can go online and look up basic ways to meditate. Finding a quiet space, even a noisy place, but finding your own quiet in that noisy space, finding that place. Meditation, listening. I always say, if there's one thing, when people ask me all the time, how do you meditate? You listen. What are you listening to? Everything. Listen to your thoughts, listen to your breath, listen to the cars go by, listen to the dogs barking in the distance, listen to the kids playing outside, listen to the angry neighbor, chopper, motorcycles ripping by. Can you stay focused and mental in that time? That's the meditation. Affirmation. Affirmation is so incredible. Affirmation is like a computer program for the mind. We can tell ourselves certain things over and over again. Thoughts become things. So, affirmation, like I've actually got a couple of them written down. I like to start every affirmation, well, not all of the affirmations, but a good affirmation is to remember that what I'll do is I'll write out a sentence as an affirmation in black marker, and I'll put it up into my meditation spot, and I'll stare at it and I'll look at it while I'm meditating. I'll sometimes just say that affirmation over and over and over. I'll say an affirmation is an empowering statement to affirm something, but affirm it as if you've already received it. That's the point of an affirmation. When we have an affirmation, we affirm that we've already received it. So for instance, I am so grateful now that I am living my purpose. I am so grateful now that I am living my purpose. I am so grateful now that I am living my purpose. You can say it out loud, say it to the walls, look in the mirror and say it. This kind of an affirmation. I am so grateful that I am living my purpose. I am so grateful now that I am living my purpose. What that does is it's saying I'm grateful. It passes through the gate of gratitude and the universe opens, showing God that we are grateful. I am so grateful now that I am living my purpose. We're affirming that we're living it now. And what happens is the mind begins to see that and say, oh, I'm so grateful I'm living my purpose. And all of a sudden we start noticing that we're living our purpose in our day-to-day life with little to no effort. One more affirmation that I really like. Somehow everything works out in my favor. Somehow everything works out in my favor. And see how I'm saying it in different ways too? That's another great thing about an affirmation. You write it down and it's something simple that you can remember. Somehow everything works out in my favor. Somehow, everything works out in my favor. You can say it all these different ways out loud or in your mind. Say it those different ways, and all of a sudden it starts resonating in your being. Your cells start hearing that. Your cells start recording that frequency and vibrating that frequency out. That's the affirmation. Strong affirmations, and like I said, it goes right in line with meditation, because during the meditation, as you're focusing the mental, as we're focusing the mental, we can put a nice affirmation right in there. Somehow everything works out in my favor. But you can make up your own quick, simple affirmation, but make sure it's empowering. Never use any negative terms. Always affirm and see it and be it. And then after about a week of that affirmation, take that affirmation, you can crumble it up, put it on fire, do a little ritual, let it go off into the nothingness from which it came, and start living it out the way it was destined to be. Or you can take that affirmation. What I do is I fold up that affirmation, I stick it in a folder, so that way in the future I can go back and look at those old affirmations and realize, I've often gone back and looked at my older affirmation and been like, hey, I live that now. Dope. But there was one time where I needed to put that affirmation out there so I could be living it. Never underestimate the power of affirmation. Brain sync with I'll put the link below. There's a it's called theta brain waves, beta. You do delta frequencies and stuff. And this woman, her name slips my mind here right now. Kelly Howe does these brain sync, and I'll put a link below. And it's great. You know, it's another way to affirm things. You put your headphones on, you go to sleep at night. And sometimes it's just here's waves, and there's these voices underneath those waves that are positive affirmations that you can listen to. Some of them are designed to listen at work or when you're driving. Some of them are designed for when you go to sleep. Kelly Howe, I'll put those links below. Another great way for affirmation. Now, prayer, meditation, affirmation, prayer. Prayer helps us get into the right mind state, no doubt. Pray anytime, anywhere. If we're not in the right mind state, all we got to do is pray to be in the right mind state. Great and Holy Spirit, I'm frustrated right now. I need some help. How do I get into this right mind state right here, right now? God, please, I just need your help right now. I'm frustrated and I don't want to act out of frustration. How do I get into that right mind state right now? That's a good prayer right there. That prayer, God's sure to answer the prayer when we're sincere. But also while we're sitting there in our stillness and we're, meditation, affirmation, we're affirming things, and we're praying with God. God, how do I accomplish this? God, I really want to write a dope album. God, what should I write about? God, how do I find the time? God, asking God those intelligent questions towards that affirmation. That's another, or towards that vision that you have for yourself. Meditation, affirmation, prayer. I'm breezing over these all right now because these are all lessons in and of themselves. But once again, we're talking about the mental discipline to make those changes or to accomplish those things that we want in our life. Meditation, affirmation, prayer. Another great part of prayer too, before I forget, is forgiveness. You know how much mental stress and anguish and depression and doubt and fear that we can accomplish through forgiveness? God, please forgive me for doubting you. Or telling ourselves, yo, Zin, I forgive you for doubting yourself, bro. I'll say that to myself. I have no problem saying that to myself. Yo, Zin Uru, I forgive you for doubting yourself, bro. I'll be like, word, I forgave myself. I forgave myself of the doubt. What that does is it just releases that pressure. It releases that weight so that I can accomplish those things in life that I want to accomplish. Meditation, affirmation, prayer, study your maps, study your prayer, study your affirmation, study your meditation, study good, useful knowledge about what it is that you want to accomplish. That's mental discipline. That's living purpose too. Say like you want to make dope music videos. Start studying music videos. That's part of making great music videos, is studying those elements that you like. Study how the cameras work. Study different camera angles. Study how to mic up the situation. How does the lighting go? How does natural lighting differ from indoor lighting? How does a green screen work? How do I add graphics? What's the best program that I can use to make a music video? What artists do I want to shoot? What kind of music videos do I want to shoot? All of those type of things, that's in the study. But that study, that's the mental discipline, because you're studying and adding knowledge. We're studying and adding knowledge to what it is that we want to accomplish, like video editing or creating music videos. So meditation, affirmation, prayer, and study, those to me, those are four pillars. That's the map, really, that's the map to the road. That's the roadmap to where you want to get to what you want to accomplish in life. I know because it works. I know because all four of those things are essential. And then performing action on top of that, we have to perform the action. If we say we're an MC, we actually got to go and be the MC. We've actually got to, perform the action of MC, and we've got to grab the mic. I'm going to tell you a little story about grabbing the mic too. I don't know how many MCs out there started late in life and started cutting their teeth as an MC, standing next to the greatest MC of all time, the teacher KRS-One. Now, it might sound great. I know people have been like, yo, that must have been amazing. You were sitting next to KRS-One when you were learning to MC. And I'm like, oh, yo, that was difficult. Difficult. Why was it difficult? Well, because I froze quite a few times on stage. You know, the teacher, and what led to me becoming an MC, I'll give a little story, a little history story here before we go into the closing and go into our reading. When I started my apprenticeship with the teacher directly at the Temple of Hip Hop, you know, me and the other students, he brought us, he had a one-on-one with each of us. He brought us into this little conference room and had a one-on-one with us and asked us what, you know, where we're from, what it's about, what we hope to accomplish. And he asked me, he said, yo, Zin, what element are you mastering? What's your element? I said, oh, I'm an MC. He said, spit something. I started laughing. I said, no, I'm just telling you, this is the first, I'm just saying it to you right now, the first time. And he was like, yo, word, that's what's up, Zin. I need to hear something from you next week. And I was like, oh, okay. And so he's like, don't be surprised when I hand you the mic on stage, Zin. I was like, what? And he said, yo, you gotta get your rhymes right. You can't be corny, Zin. You walking with me, you can't be corny, you can't be whack. And I was like, oh man, you know, I was just having fun saying I'm an MC. And then all of a sudden, all that weight started going on. I was like, oh, yo, wait a minute. This ain't gonna be as easy as I thought it was. And just on a note here too, he also told me this. He said, Zin, you'll be an MC when you no longer desire to be an MC. Whew. That's a chapter in my book, by the way. But you will know when you are that, when you no longer desire to be that. And that's interesting, because if I desire to do something, it means I'm not doing it. If I desire to be an MC, it means I'm not an MC. I'm still desiring towards something. So that's why affirmations are so important, that we don't say, I desire to be the dopest MC. You know, we say, I'm grateful I'm the world's dopest MC. You know, there's a difference there. That's why we have to affirm that positive. We have to affirm that we already have that what we want to accomplish in life. And so, you know, back to the apprenticeship, there were times, you know, and I wasn't on tour to MC. I was on tour to facilitate the teacher. I was a driver, I was a gopher, I was go for food, you know, go for drinks, go for whatever, go for water, go for, you know, go back to the hotel and pick up the hip hop Declaration of Peace that somebody forgot to hang up. Maybe I forgot it. Happened a few times. But you know, I wasn't out on the tour to be an MC. I was out on tour to learn how to live the complete hip hop lifestyle from the teacher. But during that process, I had opportunities like, you know, one time I'm standing up on stage and I'm doing crowd control, making sure that, you know, everybody's back behind the DJ booth, and that the B-boys are up here waiting for their turn, and, you know, just stage managing. And so teacher's rocking, and he goes, yo, Zin, spit that shit. And he just hands me the mic. And I grabbed the mic and I went, and I froze up. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And I was actually prepared. I was prepared, at least I thought I was, but looking out over the crowd. And I'd been up, like I said last week, I've been in a band with my brother. Oh, I've been used to being in front of an audience, but I never rapped in front of an audience like this, something unrehearsed over a beat, a freestyle, you know. And he handed me the mic, and I froze, and he snatched the mic back out of my hand because it's his show, and I'm looking corny up there, and so he said, da-da-da-day, da-da-da-da-day, and I was like, oh man, my soul just went like you could probably see my soul leave my body. Oh. And I went back and I was like, you know, like I think about that scene, the Jim Carrey scene, I forget the movie, Liar, Liar, I think it is, where they walk in the bathroom and he's pushing his head up against the wall and he's punching himself in the stomach and he's slamming himself on the floor. And somebody's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm kicking my own ass. That's what I went back to the hotel and did. I was like, oh man, that was corny. You suck. Start beating myself up over it. You know, but that was the mental discipline. And then but then again, I knew that opportunity would come again if I was in the right state of mind, if I got myself in the right spirit, and I kept my discipline going. So the next time that happened, I was like, okay, I'm ready now. I took that challenge. I took my failure as a challenge at that moment to learn from that, knowing that if another opportunity came, I wasn't going to waste the next opportunity. Next opportunity came. That I had since I knew that I might freeze on the freestyle, I decided that I was going to that I would have a rhyme ready, 8-bar rhyme, just a quick 8-bar rhyme that I could spit. Next time, the teacher handed me the mic again. He said, Zin, get your shit up. And so he hands me the mic. I grabbed the mic and I just started rhyming the rhyme. I was off beat. I was messing up. But I handed him back the mic and he kind of looked at me and he just started rocking again. And I didn't get no cheers from the audience. And I was like, oh man, I went back and we got in the car. We were driving back to the hotel and he's like, yo, Zin, I'm glad you finally spit that rhyme. But my G, you was off time the whole time. And I was like, word. He's like, no, you jumped in too soon. Give it a 1, 2, 1, 2, then spit your rhyme. He's like, get on the beat, give yourself a moment to get the beat. And so, fast forward, a few shows went by. I didn't have an opportunity to grab the mic. And this was some time in the making. Finally, the night came. And I had my 8-bar rhyme ready, and I knew that I would jump on the beat, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so all of a sudden, teachers opens up a cipher. If anybody's gone to one of the teachers' show, he opens up a cipher at the end, and so it was just a great party night, great atmosphere night. The teacher jumped behind the turntables, and so the cipher starts, and the Triune was an MC. He was like kind of heading the cipher. He starts the cipher off, and he looks at me and points to the mic. And I was like, yeah. I grabbed the mic. I was like, 1, 2, 1, 2. ZINURU, Zin Uru. That's who's spitting at you. What's the message? And teacher's cutting out the thing. God is living in you, so cherish the life that has been given to you. I mean, what I mean by the teacher cutting it out, he's cutting out the music at certain parts, like he likes to do while the beat's going and while he's DJing. And so I'm spitting the rhyme and he's cutting out at certain punchlines and the audience is cheering for me, right? And this is like a year of messing up and struggling and trying ciphers and being in the hotel rooms and spitting with S5 while we're driving and this is about a year and a half, 2 years into this, of really working hard at this craft. And finally I'm up in front of 750 people and I'm spitting my rhyme on time, on beat, and I'm getting cheered. Woo, what a life changer that was, And I visualized earlier like that mic coming into my hand as a thunderbolt and like a thunderbolt of lightning hitting the audience, and they were going to be all electrified by that. And it happened. But it took a long time for me to get there from point A to point B. There's a famous cartoon out, and it says, my plan, what I want to do and my goal. And then it shows what I think is going to happen, and it's a straight line. But it says what really happens, and it's like a squiggly line all over the place until it finally gets there. That's the pattern of anything worthwhile accomplishing in life. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be those obstacles. There's going to be haters upon the path. But if you're mentally strong and mentally disciplined, and you take those setbacks and you take those defeats as what they really are, which is empowering circumstances, empowering events to make you stronger, and you know that that's what they're for, man, that's when you become superhuman. That's when you become able to do those things that you really want to do in life. When somebody hits you with doubt, somebody's like, oh, I doubt you could be a dope MC. And instead of going, oh, maybe he's right, I can't be a dope MC because Fred said I couldn't MC, or Jack said I couldn't MC, I must not be a dope MC. No, you take that as like, I'm going to show them. I know I'm dope. I know I'm fresh. And you stand up for yourself in that way. You ain't got to be mad. You can be like, oh, that's what you think. That's what you think. I disagree. You will see. I had so many people hate on me when I was learning to rap, and I had so many people cheering me on. And as the gospel of hip hop, as the teacher taught, take criticism and praise as the same thing. They can both weaken somebody. I've seen dope MCs who were praised so much that they never really honed in on their craft. They really just thought they had so much talent that they didn't ever really have to work on getting better. And you know, 10 years down the line, they don't spit no more. They're not working on their records no more. They're not working on their craft no more. And it's that positive feedback can be just as, it says this, it talks about this in the science of rap too. Positive feedback can be just as damaging, if not more damaging, than negative feedback. You got to take the praise and the criticism mentally and just keep going on and staying focused on the purpose, staying focused on the goal. That is the mental discipline, staying focused on the goal. So in conclusion, I got some readings just to fill out the reading. This will actually be an assignment. If you have a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop and the Divine Performance, read Perform Discipline. I'm just going to read the first few paragraphs tonight from that. And then also I brought another book by Shunryu Suzuki. I'm not saying his name right because of my California accent, but Shunryu Suzuki wrote a wonderful book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And anybody who wants to start on the path or just learn about Buddhism, about Zen Buddhism specifically, this is just a wonderful book. He came to the United States around 1958 and opened up a Zendo, which is like a church, a mosque. It's called a Zendo. You know, it's a place where you go and study Zen. And, you know, it's a holy place for studying Zen. It's a school for studying Zen. It's more like a school, really, but it's called the Zendo. But he opened up a Zendo because he had brought this philosophy from Japan and this way of life from his Japanese upbringing. And he was the student of a famous Zen master. His name's Dogen, and he was a student of Dogen's, and so very profound work. But what I love about Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind is it's such a simple way to understand Zen, and it's this book. Although it says Beginner's Mind, I've been studying this book for 25 years, 30 years, and I still find fresh new insights every time I open up its pages. Here's a picture of him. I'll put one up on the screen too so you can see what he looks like there. But I'm going to be reading from this book as well, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. I'm going to close with this. I kind of like this flow of closing with something different, just to kind of introduce those who aren't familiar with certain books, some new ideas for some new books. And of course, I'm going to be revisiting these books too as these teachings go along. Oh yeah, I did put this in my notes. When we're doing affirmations, before I get to the Gospel of Hip Hop reading, when we're doing affirmations, keep it in the realm of self and what you can do. You can't affirm somebody into your life. You know, you can't affirm somebody else doing something. You can only affirm what it is you want, what it is you have control over. Everyone has free will. So say like you want to affirm a partner in life. You want to, you want a wife or a husband, or you want the right person in your life, somebody to love. Don't affirm like you don't somebody specific. Don't sit there and affirm, I'm so grateful I've got Julie in my life. I'm so grateful Julie's in my life now. Julie has free will, okay? And our affirmation we're not special. We don't get to override somebody else's free will. That's what the governments do. That's what mind control is all about. And we're not about that here. These metaphysics are not about mind control. When I say mind control, I'm talking about the thought control of the government, the programming and control. We're talking about the organic mental discipline, which is what, that's why I don't even call it mind control, because mind control is a fallen science. It's a fallacy. It's a temporary thing that the oppressor and the colonizer uses to subjugate people. That's the dark side of mental discipline. So what we're talking about is the real techniques right here, the real techniques of mental discipline, of self-control, which is what discipline really is. Discipline is really self-control, controlling our source, energy, life force. Big up to G. Simone for that acronym too. Self, source, energy, light force. That's G. Simone's acronym. Now, I'm just saying, you just can't interfere on somebody else's free will when we're visualizing things into our lives. Keep that in mind. It's something that a lot of these New Age spiritual teachers fail to mention when they're talking about mental discipline and visualization. That it's for the self. It's what we have control over in our lives. We have control over the way we react in life. We have control over what we eat in life and what we don't eat in life, and when we exercise and when we don't exercise. We don't have control in life over anybody else doing those things. We can be the example, we can be the minister, we can be the teacher, we can be that thing, that source in people's lives, but we cannot control other people like that. Two things I wanted to read from the Gospel of Hip Hop today. Let's start with discipline, and then I'm going to get to just a little piece of endarkenment, because I really don't teach endarkenment on videos. That's more of a person-to-person, study when we're studying the Gospel of Hip Hop, person-to-person. But let's get into some performed discipline. Since we're talking about discipline today, all of this applies to the discipline of the mind, and you'll see what I'm saying. Now, this is 3 or 4 pages. We're not going to read the whole thing. That's specifically for those who've taken the time and had the discipline and the heart to go and get a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by our teacher, KRS-One. The deeper study of performed discipline and really the whole divine performance is for those who have a copy of this. That's the homework. If you actually have the Gospel of Hip Hop, go and read Performed Discipline and just kind of think about what we've talked about here today. This is page 136 in the Gospel of Hip Hop in the Divine Performance. Divine Performance number 4, Perform Discipline. Every day we are faced with opportunities to perform discipline, self-control. The attuned hip-hopper uses moments of temptations to practice restraint, moments of fear to practice faith, and moments of anger and anxiety to practice patience and inner calmness. These are divine performances. Hip-hoppers use moments of temptation to practice restraint, moments of fear to practice faith, and moments of anger and anxiety to practice patience and inner calmness. These are divine performances. Let's stop for a minute and talk about this. Hip-hoppers use moments of temptations. This is something great. This is something great the teacher teaches, and it's worked every single time in life. I talk about it often. When the tempting moment arrives, simply be still and do nothing. When temptation arrives, be still and do nothing. That's how we gain empowerment over it. That's how we gain mastery over the temptation. It no longer is temptation when we be still and do nothing. So when those tempting moments arise, whether it's food and it's like you're on a diet and all of a sudden somebody brings that meat lover's pizza over and you're starting your vegetarian and you're like, oh man, I love meat lover's pizza. And all of a sudden, use that moment of temptation. Just be still and do nothing. Just be still and do nothing. Don't eat the pizza. Just be still and do nothing and allow the tempting moment to pass. Be still and do nothing and allow the tempting moment to pass. The mind works the same way. You're sitting there thinking about your purpose, and all of a sudden the inspiration comes, and as the inspiration comes, all of a sudden the doubt comes with the inspiration. Funny how that works, isn't it? Now the doubt comes to make you stronger. But also the doubt, if we attach ourselves to the doubt, then all of a sudden the inspiration leaves and we can't see the inspiration. Then we get frustrated because we don't see the inspiration. It starts the downward spiral again. Now, when the doubt comes, when that tempting moment of doubt arrives, simply be still and do nothing. Don't try and outthink the doubt. Don't fight the doubt. Don't push the doubt away. Just simply be still and do nothing. Allow the tempting moment to pass. Allow the doubt to pass. It may take 20 minutes. It may take 30 minutes the first time. It may take 3 days the first time. However long it takes the first time, and you're successful of being still and allowing that tempting moment to pass, the next time that doubt comes, instead of taking 30 minutes, it takes 15 minutes this time. And then the next time, being still, doing nothing, allowing the tempting moments to pass, that doubt comes again, and because you outlasted it at 30 minutes and you outlasted it at 15 minutes, now it takes 5 minutes, to the point where the doubt comes, it's instantly gone, to where the doubt doesn't even try anymore, because you were still, did nothing, and waited for that moment to pass. These are habits. This is strong mental discipline, even strong physical discipline too, like we talked about with the pizza. In all actions, use moderation. Temptation, fear, anger, etc. can be used as tests to strengthen your mind and body. Seek balance. Do not overindulge, for this act leads to suffering. Control yourself. Self-control is your only friend, while temptation is your only enemy. Never forget this. What? Never forget that self-control is your only friend and temptation is your only enemy. Self-control is your only friend. Temptation is your only enemy. What does this one say too? Oh, temptation, fear, anger, etc. can be used as tests. That tempting moment arrives. It's just a test to strengthen your mind and body. Seek balance. Talk about that for a minute. So the tempting moments come. Remember, once we learn what we talked about earlier, once we learn that when we see these tempting moments, when we see when somebody's doubting us or we're doubting ourselves, when we use that to strengthen ourselves, we say, oh, wait a minute, that doubt that's coming my way, or that fear that's coming my way, it's actually coming here to strengthen me. Once we change our mind and we see it in our mind, once we have that mental discipline, all of a sudden, we'll have control over that. We're like, oh, wait a minute. This is here to this temptation is here to strengthen me. And then we can strengthen ourselves because we see it. We know for what it is. We know what the temptation is there for. We know it for what it is. And we have power over it then. We have power over the temptation, for we know what it is at that moment. Seek balance. Seek balance. I talk about this often too. I'm going to give a brief one on this. Remember, in the United States of America, in Western culture, they got this stupid thing called the scales of justice, the scales of balance. Good and evil, always in balance with each other. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, that everything must be in balance. That is not balance. That is a unit of measurement. That is weight. That is a measurement of weight. This is not balance. Balance, when we get into Taoism, when we get into Tai Chi, balance is 70-30. I've got 70% of my weight on my front leg, 30% on my back leg. I'm balanced. It's not 50-50. It's 30-70. I'm balanced. I've got all my weight on my left leg right now, balanced. I'm standing on one leg right now, balanced. I don't have to have both feet down, 50-50, balanced. Now I am balanced. 50-50 can be balanced, but it's not the only balance. I can have 99% of my weight on my back leg, 1% on my front toe. I'm balanced. I have balance. Same thing with the mind. Things don't have to be this equal. Get out of that stagnant thinking of what balance actually is. Seek balance. Balance. Smoke is balanced. I watch incense smoke and think and contemplate balance. While you're sitting at the altar, burn a stick of incense with some candles going and contemplate balance while you're watching the beauty of the way smoke moves in and out. That's balance. Smoke is balance. That's how the body moves. You know, waves. Water is always balanced. Water never loses its balance. Water is balanced. As hip hop's spiritual strength is not measured but by what can be resisted in the flesh, it is measured by that which is resisted in the mind. In order to change or modify your behavior, you must first change or modify the picture you hold of yourself in your mind. What is your perception of yourself? What do you mean to you? How valuable are you to you? How serious do you take yourself? Woo! We could have just read that and stopped, and all of you could have just read that and stopped. This whole lesson is based on that right there. When I opened this up, I was thinking about this week. That whole lesson this week is paragraph 2 here. I'm going to read it again and get to some commentary on it. But this is so important. As hip hop's spiritual strength is not measured by what can be resisted in the flesh, it is measured by that which is resisted in the mind. In order to change or modify your behavior, you must first change or modify the picture you hold of yourself in your mind. All that temptation is going to come. This is the mental discipline right here. What picture do you hold of yourself in the mind? When you say, I'm an MC, and the whole environment says, no, you're not. You're too old to start MCing. No, you're not. You've never rapped before. No, you're not. You're a white dude from the suburbs. No, you're not. Blah, 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 blah. That's all it is. Blah, 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 blah. That's all they're saying. But in the moment, at first, you can start hearing it and be like, oh, maybe they're right. No, resist that. Resist that temptation. What picture do you hold of yourself in your mind? And this takes time. It's not like you just sit down, I hold the perfect picture of myself in my mind right now. No, sometimes that could be the case. Not always, though. I know for myself it wasn't like that. I had to really visualize myself as an MC. I had to really push through. I really had to break through that darkness that I was in. I had to push through that temptation. I had to push through that funk. I had to push through that doubt and fear, because I had hold that mental picture I saw of myself in my mind. And now here I am talking into a camera. It's a habit now. It's just who I am. It's like I can't separate it from my being. You know, I can't separate my hip-hop reality from my being. I couldn't even take the MC out of me now if I wanted to. I couldn't take the Minista out of me if I even wanted to. But I had to hold this vision of, and this is for anybody. The reason I know this is because I saw Teacher Became the Teacher, KRS-One. He held that mental vision. This is how Bruce Lee became Bruce Lee. He held that mental vision. Do you know how many doubters Bruce Lee had upon the path? Watch Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, the one that his wife Linda did, not that corny one they tried to put out. I don't know what's up with Hollywood trying to diss Bruce Lee. That shameful Quentin Tarantino movie where he disses Bruce Lee, and then this just shameful movie they put out, this last one. I didn't watch it. I saw this trailer, just garbage. I don't know why they're dissing Bruce Lee now, but that's besides the point. See, they still hating on Bruce Lee now. That's how powerful Bruce Lee is. They still try to hate on Bruce. And he's already a spirit being. And they're still trying to hate on him. What do you think his spirit does with that hate? His spirit so transcended all the hate while he was here on earth. It has no effect on him. That's why his legacy will live on forever. That's why Bruce Lee's legacy is impeccable. But you know how much, watch Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. If you want to watch this paragraph in action, I'm going to read this paragraph one more time. This is Bruce Lee in action right here. Watch the movie Dragon a Bruce Lee story, the one Linda Lee did, his wife, and contemplate this. As a hip-hop's spiritual strength, and like I said last week, Bruce Lee, for me, is a pure-blooded hip-hopper. Like, I see Bruce Lee, I see hip-hop. A lot of us do. The gospel of hip-hop does. We teach that, literally. A hip-hop spiritual strength is not measured by what can be resisted in the flesh. It is measured by that which is resisted in the mind. In order to change or modify your behavior, You must first change or modify the picture you hold of yourself in your mind. What is your perception of yourself? What do you mean to you? How valuable are you to you? How serious do you take yourself? Perform discipline. Okay. Whew. Read the rest of Perform Discipline. There's quite a bit of homework, right? Good homework, though. Reading Perform Discipline, watching Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, Wonderful, wonderful ways to do some homework. Didn't know you was getting homework from Message from the Minister, but you are. All right. I did want to put this on. I'm going to close with just a quick reading from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Page 367. Endarkenment. I'm not going to give the lesson on endarkenment. You got to study yourself. But anybody should know this knowledge when they're learning mental discipline. When you expect God in your life, God then appears. However, if you expect to fight your devil, when you wake up every morning, such a devil will be right there ready to do battle with you every morning. What is the devil? The devils are those doubts, those fears, those haters in our lives. Whether they're created by ourselves or other people, those are the devils. If we expect to fight those devils every day, when we wake up, they will be there, right there waiting for us. We can expect God there, and God is right there waiting for us. Expect your purpose, and your purpose is right there waiting for you. Expect your discipline, and your discipline will be right there waiting for you. What do you expect? Attuned hip-hoppers must be mindful as to what they place their focus, their conscious attention upon. Again, the question here is, what do you truly expect, even respect? What do you truly value? For it is through the repetition, here's the affirmation right here. For it is through the repetition of certain words, affirmations and prayers, that one focuses one's awareness upon the values of one's heart. It is also what one places one's money and time upon that determines what one values the most. That's page 357, paragraph 14. 357, paragraph 14 in Endarkenment. What are we focused on? Are we focused on God? Are we focused on our purpose? Are we focused on the doubts and the fears? Remember, if the doubts and the fears are coming up, but we're focused on God, those doubts and the fears we all of a sudden have the power over because we realize that they're there just to help us grow. In closing, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. This is what I wanted to close on because it might sound a little overwhelming after watching this video, and we talk about all these different techniques, and you may, some of you are already on the path, and some of you may have gotten on the path and got off the path, and some of you are just starting out on the path right now. And if you're starting out on the path right now, this message is for you. It's also a reminder for those of us who've been on the path for a while. Sometimes we think it is impossible for us to understand something unfamiliar. But actually, there is nothing that is unfamiliar to us. Some people may say it is almost impossible to understand Buddhism because our cultural background is so different. How can we understand Oriental thought? Of course, Buddhism cannot be separated from its cultural background. This is true. But if a Japanese Buddhist comes to the United States, he is no longer a Japanese. I am living in your cultural background. I am eating nearly the same food as you eat, and I am communicating with you in your language. Even though you do not understand me completely, I want to understand you. And I may understand you better than anyone who can speak and understand English. This is true. Even if I cannot understand English at all, I think I could communicate with people. This is always a possibility of understanding as long as we exist in the other darkness of the sky, as long as we live in emptiness. All right, that was pretty profound and pretty deep thought there. The reason I brought that one into the talk about about mental discipline is what he's saying is it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter where you're at, it doesn't matter if you speak the language or not. If your heart's in the right place, then that's who you are. So don't look at anything as a limitation, especially starting out on the path. Sometimes we think it is impossible for us to understand something unfamiliar, but actually there is nothing that is unfamiliar to us. That's so deep, because what he's saying is, you know, when people would come to him early on and want to study Zen Buddhism, he would say, you already know it. You've already sought it. He says that at the beginning of the book. As soon as you start your seeking of Zen, you've attained Zen. And he's saying just because the cultural backgrounds are different, it doesn't mean that you can't understand this, because you understand it in its cultural context and where it came from. He's saying, I'm bringing this to you. That's God. See, we want to understand spiritual things, and the Spirit inspires us. And then the mind starts attracting all these thoughts to it and has to start ciphering through all the thinking. And every time that the inspiration comes, so does the doubt, until you're so strong. And you can, you know, it's like this. It's like they say, with every blessing comes a burden. And this is the closing right here. With every blessing comes a burden. Once we learn to pick up that burden, it becomes lighter. It's like lifting weight. And that's when it really becomes the blessing. We are empowered by the burden. The burden is the temptation. The burden is the doubt, the fear, all of that. But when we use that doubt and that fear to empower us, that's where we become stronger. So even if you're just starting on the path, there's nothing unfamiliar. It's already all familiar to you. We have it inside of us at the beginning. When I started emceeing, I was already who I am now. Just had to uncover it. Just had to, you know, go through those motions and the discovery process of who I really am. And there's nothing more empowering than the creation of oneself towards the vision one has of oneself. The vision not the dreams. Everybody's got dreams, but the vision is the spiritual empowerment, the one that challenges us, the spiritual inspiration that comes from God. Not the dreams, oh, I dream one day I'll have this brand new this, and I'll dream one day I'll be that. And this is God. This is God pushing that through. That's what purpose is about. Because if we're living our purpose, that's what God, that's what the universe, that's what life's purpose is for us. It's what's inspiring through us. So do we have the mental discipline to live that out and to accomplish those things that we vision for ourselves, that we envision? Let's get away from the dreams. Let's move in, not that it's cool to have dreams, but what about the vision? What is the vision that you have for yourself? What is the vision that God has for you? That's the real question. Because there's all kind of metaphysical techniques that work for people who want to accomplish their wildest dreams. But it's a real life. It's a real depth to the life for the spiritual life. When God gives you a vision of yourself, and it seems like it's impossible to accomplish. So you go through, you push through, you grow, you become something that you were not, but something you always were. The seed comes into the sprout, comes into the tree, bears the fruit. That's real talk right there. The world's selling dreams. That's what advertising is about. Go here for the vacation. Go buy this car. You want this, you want this. And not that those things are bad. I'm not saying those things are bad. But those things are temporary effects. The real effects comes from God. That's the vision that God has for you. Do you have the courage to ask God, God, what is your vision for me? And how do I live out that vision? How do I accomplish that vision? How do I become the living vision? And God's going to say to you, yo, you already are that. It's already with you. There's nothing unfamiliar to you, as we just learned from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. There's nothing unfamiliar. Everything is already, you already have it with you. In fact, here's the exact quote right here. Sometimes we think it is impossible for us to understand something unfamiliar, but actually there is nothing that is unfamiliar to us. Our true selves are familiar to us, but we may not have asked those questions. We may not have gotten that vision for ourselves from God yet. And those of us who have gotten that vision from God, it's a lifelong journey. It carries us beyond this life. When I leave this life, whenever that is, God's going to carry the vision of me forward past this. Look at the vision that God had for Bruce Lee, that he's still inspiring people 48 years after his passing. That's ascension. That's his spirit is bigger than he even was when he was alive. He's more popular now than when he was alive, and he was popular when he was alive. What is God's vision for you? What is the universe's vision for you? And do you have the courage for that? It takes mental discipline to accomplish it. It takes real mental discipline to accomplish that. Meditation, affirmation, prayer, study. Get that map. Get your maps out. Meditation, affirmation, prayer, and study. We'll be breaking each one of those down in the future. But you can start right now because there's nothing you're unfamiliar with. You're already familiar with meditation, affirmation, prayer, and study. You're already familiar with your purpose. You know what it is. Rise up, my nobility. Be empowered for yourself. The more of us that can do this, the more hypopia will start appearing in our outer reality. That world, that system, the Babylon system. Come with me, chant down Babylon one more. It's been chanted down. It's on its way out. This is the last act of a desperate people. What they're trying to do, the whole new world order, the whole enslavement of humanity, the whole digitization of humanity, turning people into basic robots. It's the last gasp of air for the devil. I don't know how long it's going to take until it's all gone, but I do know that God is pushing us and urging us forward. Hip-hop was to wake up. I know that's what's happening right now. Wake up. We can build our own city. We can build our own schools. We can build our own city. We can build whatever it is that we see for ourselves. Let's let God inspire that. The Creator, God, the one who's thinking us all into existence at this very moment, the one who created breath and water and eyeballs. The Creator of all that is, the great event, big G, big O, big D, guiding our direction. Let's wake up to that reality. The more of us that wake up to that reality, this outer reality, as we said earlier, the outer always follows the inner. Once we wake up to that inner reality of the Creator, now awakening what's been called the Christ. Once we wake up more to that, my nobility, we will see the kingdom of heaven on earth. I see it everywhere. Let's create a better future for our children and our children's children forever. It starts with mental discipline. Peace and so much love to you, my nobility. So grateful to have you here tonight. There it is. Hip